The whole world thought that India needed Bumrah to win a test match. And India goes and proves everyone wrong. Akash, Mohammad Siraj, Prasid Krishna, they all tell the world to hold their beer because they were able to pull off a magnificent performance on a flatty for what 4.5 days at least, and India come out with a W. We had one of the most iconic double hundreds and 150 plus score in the same match by one player. That is the captain, El Capitan, Shubman Gill. What a test match for India. What performances. No one saw this coming.
No way, Jose. Edgbaston has fallen, and if you look at the little fallout from the first loss in the first test, and then taking out Bumrah, adding in Akash, no one was really favoring India to win this. I think people thought if India came out with a draw, it would have been a very good result for India. But no, India really showed them how to bat and how to bowl on a flatty. I know after the game, Ben Stokes said it was a subcontinent like pitch. Doesn't matter what pitch it is, as Ravi Shastri once said. Just play the
They
ball.
asked for it.
They asked for it exactly. This is not Mumbai. This is not Raikot. This is literally Edgbaston in Birmingham, right?
Yeah.
No, what a performance by Team India on all fronts. I think every player stepped up. When it comes to the batting department, bowling department, and fielding as well. We talked about the missed catches in the last test. This test, obviously, they learned from their mistakes, and what a great result. And the series is definitely poised now at 1-1.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And Ben Stokes can say whatever he wants, but he is the one who won the toss and decided to bowl first. No one asked him to bowl first. But apparently, England loves the chase. And there is a lot of rumblings out there saying how that was a mistake by Ben Stokes. And apparently, people are saying even the first test was a mistake to bowl first because it was a wicket where it was easier to bat, obviously, in the first 3, 4 days, and it just so happened that England were able to pull it off in the first test. But many are saying that he repeated the same mistake, and this time India didn't let it slip.
So here's the thing, Karan. Sometimes if you tell yourself you're something and you believe it, it's hard to get away from that. They
That's
believe they
true.
could chase it. They believe baseball could work. But
Yeah.
I really think Shubman Gill and the Indian team today really put them in a situation, especially in the second innings, where it's you can't really play each session, each day the same level, the same pace. And it kind of showed how it didn't work today. And kudos to Team India for putting England in that position where they had to feel uncomfortable in their current style of play.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, quick recap of how the test match went down. So, the first innings, India were put into bat. They were in a tricky-ish position around 210, where the five down, Jadeja comes to the crease, and this is the moment that Stokes actually pointed out in the post-match presser that was a turning point, where and I will agree with him because if England were able to take a couple more out, they probably could have rolled India out for 300 or even under 300 or around that ballpark. Jaddu and Shubman Gill had other ideas, and I know we'll talk about Shubman Gill, but Jadeja's two innings that he had, especially the one in the first innings, that 89, was a great performance that will probably never get talked about.
No, no, it is. It's kind of unfortunate. Before Jadeja in that fact, solid batting, even at his age. A lot of his
Yeah.
classmates, a lot of the people from his class are retired, but he's still kicking it. He's still bowling very very quick overs, and with the bat as well. And I was reading online, people are saying how Jaddu Jaddu's real batting is shown when there's another batter on the other end. He's not the best
Mm.
when he's with the tailenders, and maybe there's some merit to that because as you mentioned, the first innings with Shubman Gill, and even with Washington Sundar at the end as well.
Yeah.
Jadeja played a very very well batted innings.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But the man of that inning, Shubman Gill, man, 269, an innings for the ages, a legacy defining innings, a career defining innings. an innings that put him on the forefront of the greats of the game, at least in Indian cricket. He now has that beside his stats for the rest of his life until maybe he crosses that with another huge score. But that's going to be there. It's one of those innings that, as a great batsman, you want to have a score like that. And he already has it at 25 years old.
Oh, unreal, unreal. And to do that all with the captaincy as well bestowed upon you, it is, just adds so
Yeah.
much to it. You think about this, think about sort of, go back a few months ago. A lot of the talks about his average in SENA countries, struggling outside of India, really did prove those people wrong. And you're in a good position when you score your 269 in your first inning, you're scoring, an insane amount of runs as well, and you get graphics put up of your records, and you're in talks with the Dawn about scoring the most runs in a Test series in England. It's
Yeah.
it's it's crazy, crazy how times can change. But kudos to Shubman Gill, he deserves it. And after his 269, I think he got a shout out from Kohli himself on Instagram, and they showed it on Sky News as well. So it was interesting to see that.
Yeah, yeah, it was a phenomenal innings, and you would think that that would be his innings for the test match, and then he pulls out a 160 in the second innings, equally amazing in the way he put it together. Both were chanceless innings, flawless. All his stroke play was at show. He didn't seem to be troubled by any bowler whatsoever. I don't think there were many edges. It was just clean batting, great timing whenever the bad balls were there. He put it away. He rotated the strike well. He ran between the wickets. It was two epic innings of proportions where it put India in a position where they were able to bat England out of the game.
No, exactly that. And at least up until now, you look at him, this test match, the series, the test match before this. There's something going on with a number four Indian batter with an MRF. You know, day in and day out, those are the performers that everyone comes to see, and Gill proves that as well. Coming in at number four, we know, people talked about the shoes being too big to fill, but
Yeah.
he's putting up numbers that even some of his predecessors found difficult to hit. So I know people talk about the pitch and all that, but the pitch was the same for everyone, and not everyone's scoring 269. So he was in control, and he looked very very comfortable, and we just hope that he continues that throughout the series because his knocks have been sort of the dividing factor between both squads.
Yeah, well, his average at the start of the series was lower than 35, and he within two test matches his career average is almost 43.
Look at that, numbers don't lie.
That's numbers don't lie. That's what happened when you score 300s in 4 innings. That is crazy. That is crazy. All right, so India ended up at 587, and then England tried to get close to the target as they always try to do. They didn't get off to a good start. We had Mohammad Siraj, who bowled an amazing, amazing performance in that first innings. He really stood up for India when we needed that person, and I think we both said it on the previous pod too. At the end of the first Test match, India needed someone else to step up. That's not Bumrah. It kind of had that challenge. There was a challenge for these bowlers for someone to put their hand up. And in the first innings, it was Mohammad Siraj. And he was able to restrict England to 80 for, it was 84 for five. That dismissal that he got of Ben Stokes, that was a beauty. That's what they call a seed.
Oh, ripper of a ball. And no, as you mentioned earlier, it was difficult for even us as fans to see a path to a victory with the bowling attack that India had, minus Justin Langer
Yeah.
at the beginning of this test. Not, and a lot of people were saying it was a selection issue, and we were also a little hesitant on, is this really the best attack to get a victory and level the series 1-1? And in the beginning of the test, it would have been hard for me to admit it, but Siraj, as you mentioned, bowlers came up, put their hands up, and in that first inning, Siraj was a sixer, absolutely threatening and getting key wickets at key moments, as you mentioned with Ben Stokes. not letting the team settle. And I know, we'll talk about the big partnership between Brooks and Jimmy Smith, but unbelievable bowling from Team India without Bumrah in their attack, and you know, getting those 10 wickets with the margin with a meaningful lead as well was
Yeah.
super important to eventually put that scoreboard pressure on England.
Yeah, yeah, and then as you said, they had that big partnership which helped rescue England, Harry Brook and Jamie Smith. Both great innings. I feel like Harry Brook's innings was amazing, but it was just overshadowed by Jamie Smith's because of the way Jamie Smith was hitting the ball. He definitely has a lot of skill when it comes to hitting the ball. His sixes are so clean. His boundary hitting is just it's very T20 like, obviously, and it's very like a number seven keeper, right? You think Adam Gilchrist, you think someone like that, like his innings was that kind of innings, and it was a flawless performance from him, and it was such a weird partnership because that was the only thing that was good about England's first innings, that partnership.
Yeah, no, exactly that. And while we stay on the topic of his partnership, and we talk about Jamie Smith, incredible batting. This is where I felt a little, I would say, hesitant on appreciating the captaincy of Shubman Gill because it looked like India went to the short ball tactic. Pratik
Uh,
Krishna was getting roped, and literally, I don't know if you want to blame him or blame the captaincy for that, that sort of field setting and placement. But do you think that was perhaps the right call to let that, short ball play? I know India won eventually, and it's 2020 in hindsight, but it did not seem like Prasad Krishna was getting those deliveries in for those catches, and it just seemed
uh.
like if you look at this in the future, this could be an issue for Team India.
I felt like they had to try something because nothing else was working during that partnership. I remember texting you and be like, someone get someone out. And they just couldn't figure out for what was almost 60 overs, over 60 overs, right? So you're going to go through situations where you probably have to try plan B, plan C, plan D. And that's probably what it was. I feel like it might have been a plan C or plan D type situation. I don't think it would be like a plan A, plan B. It just felt like they were running out of ideas and they just wanted to try different things. And it seems like Prashad Krishna is that person, at least in this attack right now, that if it's a short ball tactic that they want to enforce, then he's the go-to guy. Well, he's got the height and he's got the pace. He's the fastest amongst the three. So, yeah, I understand. I think why they did it. His execution could have been better. He did get hit, but he also, sorry, Jamie Smith also executed his skills really well too. So you can't take that away either.
No, that's true. That's true. That's true. But no, to your earlier point, that was probably the silver lining for England's batting. That partnership. Apart from that,
Yeah.
looks like a phone booking number with a bunch of zeros and single digits. And
Yeah.
that goes back to the bowling of really two people, Akash and Siraj,
Yes.
because those are the
Yes.
two people who got those wickets.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Akash because I think his wicket of Harry Brook, and I know he ended up with a 10 for the match. Kudos to him, and also probably should mention it now how the performance that he put up, like he talked about at the end of the Test match about why he was able to put up this performance that he did and the why that drove him. I don't know if you saw or heard about it, but yeah, his sister, right? It was his sister that's going is battling cancer right now, and he did it for her. And when you have a strong why, you can do anything, and it showed in his performance. But yeah, his wicket of Harry Brook, I think, was the most important one, where India needed to find a way to break the partnership, and he was able to do it. To get someone batting at 158 out bowled was amazing because it's not easy. It's not easy when someone has their eye in and the ball's looking like a football and you're able to clean bowl them. That was pretty impressive.
No, 100%. And it does look like, at least for Team India's perspective, you get through, Jamie Smith. Then comes, the four bowlers. And so far, even especially this Test match, they're not putting up the biggest numbers. Wokes, and we know Wokes can hit the ball, but you break through, Brooke, Stokes, and Smith. and then hopefully India wipes out the tail, and it did this match.
Yeah. Yeah, the tail didn't wag at all for England, which is surprising. Usually they're able to put up some runs, but for this first innings, I should say, because we'll talk about the second. In the first innings, they weren't able to wag at all, and that really helped India because they were able to polish. Once they got Brook out, they were able to wrap up the England innings within 7 overs, which was amazing. And so that gave India that cushion of 180. And you felt at this point that India just had to bat, and bat to just get the game out of England's reach. And this is where I thought India did a great job of. They played. I personally think they played it out really well. I know some people have said that they should have probably declared earlier, or they should have upped the ante more. But when you look at their run rate, they scored at over 5 and over. They still ended up scoring at 5 and over, even though people were saying Jadeja should have played faster. His innings, even at his strike rate, was still good enough for India to keep a healthy run rate of 5 and over. And the fact that India were able to score 5 and over tells me that they did the right thing, because that means England could have probably done it too.
Yeah, no, exactly that. And I think those whispers coming out are from England fans being like, when is this going to stop? Right? India had the luxury
Yeah,
and the time to do whatever they wanted. And I think, one, you had to put that psychological scoreboard pressure on them. You see a lead of 600 compared to 500. It starts with a six compared to five. It is a difference. It does matter. And, with a total of 600 at the end of it, you're going to have that mental, like, okay, we cannot chase this. And to your point, India played at a very good pace. And for Jaddu playing at a slower pace, you had Pant, for example, playing at over 100, right? So you have that balance within India's squad of, people could pick it up, people can tame it down, which is super, super important. We saw that big in Australia a few years back when Pant and Pujara had these great, great partnerships because you had that balance between both paces where if you want to pick it up, Pant can pick it up. Whereas if you want to slow it down, Pujara can slow it down. Similar here, Jadeja wanted to play a simple, straightforward knock, getting those run in, making sure he's scoring, and there's really, really no issue. India had the luxury and time, and I think they declared out a perfect time. You wanted to have two bites at the new ball. You wanted to also bowl in the evening as well as the morning. So no, I think there's no issue
yeah.
at least from my perspective, on the declaration from Shubman Gill.
Yeah, yeah, and they made the declaration, and they ended up getting 3 wickets that evening, I should say, which justified the declaration. I think you'll always take 3 wickets towards the back end of the day, going into day five, where you now only need 7 wickets to win the match. So immediately, I felt like it was justified, and no matter what, I felt they did the right thing in that moment. Now, if England were no wickets down, maybe we would have said something different. But that's how it is with everything, right? When it works out, you say, "Oh, great, awesome, great decision," and when it doesn't work out, you say, "Oh, terrible decision," right? So you just have to go with what you think is the right thing to do in that moment, and just live with the consequences.
Yeah, no, no, exactly that, exactly that. And those 3 wickets were super clutch again. I think Siraj had one in the evening, and then Akash with two. So we kind of saw
Yeah.
Akash really get into his groove, even in the second innings.
Yes.
At the end of the day's play, it was looking very, very promising India's position going into day five.
Yeah, that ball. So if Harry Brooks' ball in the first innings was a turning point for me, the ball against Joe Root was probably the dagger that sealed the match already. And I say that because if there was one person that could dead bat on day
Yeah,
five, it would be Joe Root.
no, no, 100%, 100%. He would be that security on one end for England to bat a third, right? If you're gonna have security on one end, it would be Joe Root on any condition on any day. That ball, that little, like, it didn't even held. It didn't, I don't think it held his line. It just slightly went outswing at the end, and boom, that
Yeah.
was just enough to get the stumps rolling for Joe Root. And what a weekend, and what a celebration!
Yeah, absolutely. It was great use of angles. Akash went wide of the crease to get the angle in, and then, as you said, it just swung a little and held its line a little bit, and Joe Root just played down the wrong line. And we're talking about Joe Root playing down the wrong line, so that's super impressive.
No, no, 100%, 100%. Then comes day five, and I guess now everyone is slowly realizing, okay, this game is in India's hands, but there is that air of can Ben Stokes do it? Can England do it? India's
I
bowlers
think they
just
had no chance. Yeah,
it was mostly the English press.
it was mostly the English press and mostly the English team. Like, I think there was no way they were scoring 500 runs. They even if they had one big partnership, I think it would have been very similar to the first innings, where it would just be one big partnership and one wicket would have probably ended it. Because
Mhm.
there's a reason why no team has chased. I think the highest chase was has a team even? I think it was low 400s. No team has reached 500. I think West Indies chased 400 if I'm not mistaken a couple times. Um, Go ahead.
I think you're exactly right. I think there was one. I think the second highest, the highest chase in Test cricket was actually under DK's captaincy when he was playing first class cricket in India. I think was that 500. I think that was, but
Yeah, it
that's
was 530 something, and DK was on the losing side. Michael Atherton and Nasir Hussain definitely made sure of that.
funny. But no, to your point, it was super super tough, and India's bowlers, just needed to get those chances in, and thankfully the bowlers came super clutch.
Yeah, the bowlers absolutely did amazing on day five. I was able to watch the first couple hours of play. First of all, let's talk about that little bit of rain that came down.
Yeah,
It almost felt like oh, they did declare too late, but thankfully it didn't come later during the day, and it didn't eliminate a lot of overs either. I think only 10 overs were lost. But yeah, so coming back to India's bowling, that first couple hours, the fact that Prasidh Krishna opened, first of all, that he opened the day was mind-boggling to me. But then again, in the presser after, Shubman Gill apparently said that the idea was to bowl Krishna and swap ends for Akash Deep or something to that extent. But then what ended up happening was Prasidh Krishna seemed Shubman Gill had a gut feel that it was looking good. He was looking good. And so he kept Prasidh Krishna on that end, and he brought Akash Deep on the other side, which was not supposed to happen. Akash Deep was supposed to bowl on the end from where Prasidh Krishna was bowling, but then it ended up working out the way it did. And even Shubman Gill said, if it wasn't for Prasidh Krishna's first over, Akash Deep would not be bowling from that end, and he would not have taken those wickets.
wow, wow. Hey, sometimes things in cricket just happen and work out. And no, I that was also a very interesting moment. And what another moment that I found super super interesting was Harry Brooks' wicket. His wicket
Yes.
was very similar to his first dismissal, just coming in, nip backing in quick before it was bowled, and this time it was LBW. So similar weakness across both innings is very, very, very interesting. And the turnaround time between the first inning and the second innings isn't sorry, the second test and the third test isn't too much. But it does seem
Hmm.
like a quicker ball that just nips back off the seam could be a deficiency for Harry Brooks.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that the one that he got on day five, that was an unplayable ball for any batsman. You're coming at you at 85 miles per hour and it ducking off the seam that way is super hard to play. And you could see like he had no clue. He was in such an awkward position. His bat was nowhere near the ball. He was falling over. Like he did not expect that to come in. I think that would have got any batsman out, but I think you have something there because he does look a little shaky with the ball jutting back into him, which happened in the first innings too. So maybe India found something out and maybe they can exploit that.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely a lot of learnings for Team India. But one thing as fans that we learned is that India has some deadly bowlers, and
Yes,
it does seem like if we look at the future, we haven't even played Arshdeep Singh yet. He hasn't even
I
played, and
know, I know.
and India's bowlers are looking good.
Yeah, yeah, it's looking really good, and I guess that's a good transition into what's it going to look like for the next test match. So now the series is 1-1. We're going to Lords. Uh, Bumrah is coming back. That's a definite, according to Shubman Gill. Who is he coming
Yeah,
back for?
I've been a hater since day one. Prasid Krishna, unfortunately, going to get the boot. I think that's pretty obvious. But one thing that I think isn't obvious, and I want to hear your opinion, Tron, on this, is
Yeah.
if Bumrah comes back for Prasid Krishna and there's no other changes to the bowling lineup, which two bowlers are going to be using the new ball for Team India? Bumrah and who?
Oh, I think it'll still have to be Bumrah and Mohammad Siraj.
Even while Akash is doing so well with the new ball.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Because Akash now I'm looking at the scorecard. Akash did open the bowling in the second innings. Did he open the bowling in the first innings too? Let's see.
I believe it was him and Siraj.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Okay, so maybe Siraj comes one down. And I wouldn't be against that. I mean, we saw that today too. Yeah, yeah, because Siraj is that enforcer type bowler, and he
Yes.
brings that energy, someone that you need for exchange so that the intensity doesn't drop. Let's say, Akashdeep and Bumrah get off to a good start with their bowling spells. You don't want that energy to drop, right? So that's a perfect time for Siraj to come on with his energy so he can keep the pressure on the batsman.
No, no, and I believe in that 100%. I'm on the same page as you because Siraj is one of those bowlers who can get things done. Things can happen with him, you know.
Yes,
But
yes,
I feel like with Bumrah and his insane ability and Akashdeep's control on one end, it could
yeah,
be a very very destructive force, especially at Lords as well. So
yeah.
I think it's a great problem to have for Team India. But I think I'm with you on perhaps trying out Akashdeep with Bumrah at the top.
Yeah, suddenly India has a potent bowling attack. Like we went from test one, like who's gonna put their hands up outside of Bumrah, and now we have a pretty solid three frontline pacers that can do the job. Obviously, they'll probably still have to rotate some of them. There's even talks that maybe Siraj needs a rest as well, because this will be his third test on the trot. And this is why I feel Prasid Krishna is not going to play, because it's going to be his third test anyways. So they'll probably want to rotate him out. And so I feel Akash's definitely retaining his spot after the 10 for. And
Yes.
Bumrah's coming back, and we may see Siraj. And if not Siraj, I wouldn't I wouldn't mind actually finally getting a game.
True, that's true. I think we've both been itching to see him. But if you were to ask me, and we look at India's bowling lineup for the next test, I think you keep it the same and you just switch out Prasid Krishna for Bumrah. I know there's talks and there's some discourse online about potentially bringing in Kuldeep Yadav in for Washington Sundar. One, I'll be honest with you, I think Washington played really well today, both with the bat and with the ball. I don't want to see that change. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so there's multiple camps here with different opinions and thoughts on how the team should be picked. But there's another thought of playing four seamers. I don't think India should play Kuldeep Yadav. I think this was the test match to do it. I think at Lords, you probably don't even need two spinners, but then they want batting, so maybe you keep Washi and Jaddu because they played well. NKR may have to miss out.
For who?
There could be a possibility that he misses out and Bumrah comes in. So they play four fast bowlers.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So they play four fast bowlers and you have two all rounders in Washi and Jaddu. And that way you have batting till seven. Again, you may have a long tail, but now you have four out and out fast bowlers at Lords, which is known, which is known for swinging and seaming conditions.
See, that's one. As you mentioned, that's one school of thought. But what triggered my thought is, to your point, NPR obviously wasn't. I don't think he bowled too much this test, right? So why
Uh-huh.
don't we just why? There could be a possibility of swapping out NKR, and why not bring back Sai Sudarshan? You may
So
have
there's
to.
there's that
You may
too.
have to mix up the lineup order, but I don't think there should be any issue with putting him up at three potentially. You know, yeah, I think he could work at three. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Sai Sudarshan, if he comes back, he's coming back to three. He's coming back at three, and then Karun Nair is probably going to swap back down to number six. Um, yeah, I think it's just up in the air, and it again comes down to what Coach Gambhir and Shubman decide to do for that wicket because I personally feel they don't need four seamers. I think three seamers is enough, and maybe you keep NKR as a backup seamer to have a three and a half seamers, let's say.
Mm,
And I feel maybe you go in with the same team. I know I wanted Kuldeep for this test match, but I don't see him having a big impact at Lords. So maybe you go in with the same team, and maybe like you said, you bring back an out and out batsman instead of NKR if you're okay with three seamers and two spinners, because chances are you're probably not going to use both spinners. You're probably going to use one, so you may need that fourth seaming option.
yeah, yeah, exactly that. But no, I think overall there's a lot of good problems for India right now. Where in terms of
Hmm.
you could beef it up, you could keep it status quo, just swap out Bumrah, but in a lot of those scenarios, you're looking at probably like not for India to fill any holes, but for India to improve itself, which is always good to have. Very quickly, what are your thoughts on England's potential lineup for Lords? Because there are thoughts of Archer coming in, and it does seem like the England Pacers are definitely feeling it. Especially with those overs they put in.
But they have to make changes to their bowling lineup. Their bowling lineup looks flat. Braden Cars is having issues with his toes. Josh Tongue is the only one who looks threatening at times because of his pace. And then Chris Wokes, I think if he doesn't get the new ball, he just looks pedestrian. He doesn't have the pace anymore. He's not as consistent as he used to be, and so I definitely think they have to make changes. They'll have to figure out who they need to swap these changes out for. I think Jafar Archer is coming in for sure. There's talk about Gus Atkinson's coming in. I think Nasser Hussain made a good point. I don't know if you want two bowlers coming in that haven't played a lot of cricket recently, specifically test match or first class cricket, right? I know Archer had a game, but he hasn't played a lot of. That was his first match in a long time when it came to first class. So I think they play Jofra for sure. Um, I feel like they may drop out Bryden Carr, so he seems like he needs a rest. And I guess you keep the experience of Chris Wilkes? Do you just bank on him to come good? I think Josh Tongue should play. But again, does he need a rest too? So lots of questions for them.
Yeah, yeah, and that's just the bowling front because we all know on the batting front as well, there is a lot of pressure on a few select English batsmen. Zach Crawley, obviously not the best average
Hmm.
coming in, and lots of talks about their openers because you do have a lot of people on the sidelines as well. They're trying to come in, and then you also have Stokes, who unfortunately just people are saying that if he wasn't captain, he could easily be dropped. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh no, I think he's one of those players that it's like for us as Indian fans, it's like a Kohli or a Rohit Sharma. Like you're not dropping those players. You're not dropping a VVS Laxman, Sachin Tendulkar, Sourav Ganguly. You're not dropping these players. I think he's earned a right to keep his spot because he's so valuable. He's literally three players for England. He's a batter, he's a bowler, and a captain. That is, you cannot replace that. And the beauty of him is if he doesn't do well in one aspect, there's the other aspect where he is doing well. I feel like right now, yes, his bowling is better than his batting, and England actually need his bowling because in the first innings, he was their best bowler. He was their best seam bowler, right? So I think his spot, even if he doesn't do much with the bat, he has that X factor ability, kind of like a Rishabh Pant in the X factorness, not the style of batting, where he can just take the game away from you, right? And he's done that so many times that you can't afford to not have him in the team. So yeah, people are going to talk, but you just got to look at the history that of everything that he's done for England. I think he's earned his right to maintain his spot regardless of his performances because he's just that player that on any given day he can just come good.
Yeah, no, no, exactly that, and he really does sort of epitomize what English cricket is right now. But no, I definitely do feel the Test series is poised extremely, extremely well.
Yes.
You're at 1-1 after two, and a lot of people were again we're not giving India the credit for their selection in the second test. So
Yeah.
kudos to India. So 1-1 going into Lords with Bumrah coming in, potentially Archer coming in. So it does seem like it's poised very, very well.
Yeah, it's a best of three now, and it is poised amazingly well. You're getting a rested Bumrah, not just a Bumrah. You're getting a rested Bumrah back. It's going to be fantastic viewing. It's at the home of cricket, the mecca of cricket, and we can't wait to bring it to you at the end of the test match. Until then, that stumps.
Jeez.